before we go on, do we have any question from the last class? Any question? Yeah, Aurelua.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I was expecting you to say maybe the last two classes because my question is not even directly from the last class. It's from the initial class we had. I don't know if I can proceed or if I should hold on.
You can ask. You can ask your question.
All right, thank you. So it's about the integrated um management system. I want to confirm, is there like a structure? Like are there like agreed call it sorry, hold on. Okay, like are there like agreed management system standards in an integrated um management standard, or is it that the organization will determine by themselves the various standards that they want to implement in their IMS, in their integrated management standards, or there's a generally acceptable, globally acceptable integrated management standard?
No. So there are no globally acceptable standards. And integrated management system is not a standard. Don't get it wrong, though. I said it's an implementation approach, and that is why we call it integrated management system. We did not call it a ISMS standard or DCMS standard also. It's integrated management system, which means you integrate various management system standard. Now, it is easy to integrate 27001, ISO 27001, ISO 22301, ISO blah, 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 because they are all ISO standards. But then you can integrate other standards also that are not ISO standards with ISO standards. For instance, I have integrated seen cases where PCI DSS was integrated. PCI DSS is not an ISO standard, but it is your understanding of the requirements of the standard and how all of these frameworks work together that helps your integration. It will not make sense for you as a company. The organization is implementing ISO 27001, they're implementing NIST, they're implementing GDPR, they're implementing this and that. You now have access control policy for GDPR. You have access control policy for ISO 27001. You have access control policy for 27017. These different documents speaking to the same thing. It will not make sense. So you can integrate all of those requirements together. Even though GDPR, NDPA, PCI DSS, they are not ISO standard. So it's an implementation approach. There are no, we cannot say integrated management system is 27001, 22301, and 20,000. No. It can be combination of various standards plus other frameworks plus other international standards. However, you can integrate them as long as you understand the requirements of each of the standards. You see where they come together, you integrate them, and where they have differences, you implement them separately. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Any other question? We can take one more question before we go on. Okay. Before we go on to tonight's class, I have a delivery. I don't know when it will come in, but it's coming this night. So I might leave in between the training. I'll let us know when I'm leaving if we do not finish before that time. Now, we want to look at a very, very important part of this training. And what we want to look at is not only applicable to 27001. You can use it for any standard. You can use it for any requirement, whether PCI DSS, whether this thing is very important. And we call it gap analysis or gap assessment, however you call it. So gap analysis is where you are identifying, from the word gap analysis, you are analyzing gaps in between an implementation or a particular process or a particular requirement. Now, let me give a typical example. You were called to implement 27001 and you just jump, you start implementation. They will know that you don't know what you are doing. Or you are called to implement any standard, any requirement, whatever you are called to do. You just jump to doing it they know that you don't understand what you are doing. But once you are called to do any implementation or support the auditing or implementation of any requirement, the first thing you need to do is to carry out analysis of the existing system, because you don't just jump and you start implementing things. For instance, you got into a company as a compliance manager. So as you got into the company, you just came with all of the information, all of the idea you have, but just bombarded the company. That's wrong. You are supposed to analyze the environment of the organization, look at the pending reports, some of the processes that are in place. And this is one of the issues we have in Nigerian governance, because the new president will come, the new governor will come, they just go straight into implementing their own understanding. They bombard the country. All of the other projects that are existing, they become wasted. No continuity. I remember one time, was it Ambode or one of the governors then, that was putting plants in everywhere within the states, and everywhere was looking fine. As at now, would have had more trees, and the whole states would have been very, very cool and more beautiful. Do you understand? But when the next governor came in, the guy just uprooted everything, spoiled everything. Why? Because there was no analysis of the existing system. So the moment you want to start the implementation of any project, any standard, any requirement, or the ISO 27001 in itself, what you need to do is analysis of the existing system. You must first analyze the existing system. And that's where gap assessment comes in. Because gap assessment gives you the understanding. It helps you to know what is available and what is not available. Let me give another example. You're supporting the implementation of the ISMS for an organization. There's a part in clause 7.5. It talks about documented information. Now, you just went straight ahead. You gave them documents that all of the documents must follow this font, must follow this control style, must follow this. No. You did not analyze existing policies, existing documents that they have in place to know their font style, to know their font size, to know how they control their documents, and implement that based on the project you want to do for them. But you just went ahead, started implementation, you give them a new document, a new control. No. So gap analysis will open your eyes to see the things that they have in place already, and it will help you to focus on the things that are important and the things that they do not have. Right. So we are going to look at determining the current state, conducting gap analysis, establishing a maturity target, and publishing a gap analysis report. Now, okay, let's just go straight. So what is gap analysis? The gap analysis is a technique used to determine the steps to move from what a current state to a desired future state. And I use the example, I use Nigeria as a case study. The new governor will just come in. He will not review the current state of the economy and what the previous governor has done. He will just go straight to his own desired states, and then they will start spoiling things that have been built over time. No continuity. But what gap assessment we do is gap assessment, we first look at the current state. What are the things that these people have in place? What are the things that they do not have in place? And then you identify that current state where you are. And this gap assessment itself is not only applicable to standards and requirements, even in everyday life. January, everybody push out resolutions. If you can sit, identify your current state, not just about resolution. Sit down and say, okay, where am I? January 1st. Okay, I have this, I have this, I have that, I have that. I have done this, I have done that. Okay, where do I want to get to by December? Okay, I want to have this, I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to have that. And then you say, okay, you have identified your correct state where you are in January 1st. By December 31st, that's your desired state. This is where you want to be. In between your current state and your desired state, there is something we call a gap. And that's what gap analysis is all about. Because you have now identified what are the things I have now. Let me push it aside and continually improve on that. What are the things I don't have that will push me to my desired state, coupled with what I currently have? And then now look for the key factors for those change. You identify those gaps and you put what in place, action plan. And that's why you see a lot of people, New Year resolution, they come, oh, this new year, new me, blah, 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 blah. But no actions in place. You have identified the gaps, but no action plan. So gap assessment is not complete until there is an action plan, there's an action in place, right? Because you must have identified that current state, you must have identified the desired state, and then you put in key factors for change. You put in your what? You put in your action plan. And that is what gap assessment is all about. You look at the company, they call you to come and build a company. Let me give a typical example. Nike CEO, the CEO resigned, right? He retired, and then they brought in another CEO. So when they brought in another CEO, when they brought in that new CEO, it was during the wake of COVID. So remember that during that COVID period, people were buying things online. They do not need retail stores. They did not need stores. They did not need to go to stores again. So people were buying things, and people were used to buying things online. Then the new CEO, was there at that particular time. When COVID stopped, the new CEO stopped doing business with retailers. People that also sell to people, wholesalers, stop doing business with them. So those shelves that these business people used to put their shoes became empty. And then they now add space for other shoes. At that time, Nike lost billions in dollars, and then their shares came down, dropped. Why? Because somebody took a very wrong approach. Now, they sacked that CEO. They went to bring that CEO that has resigned, that has left, the brother CEO. What did the CEO do? He did what we call a gap assessment, a gap analysis. Okay, what is currently happening? What is this CEO doing wrong? Okay, what is this? What is that? When he identified that current state, he looked at the disaster. This is where we want to go to. He looked at the action plan, and then they started working with retailers again and wholesalers to ensure that they start giving them shoes for people to see and people to buy from them, and things started changing. So gap assessment help you to set track, identify where you are, where you want to get to, and you put actions in place. So determining the current state, we are still going to get to how to gather information. We are going to look at this, right? So part of the things that helps you to determine your current state, because let's say, for instance, you are implementing 27,001 for an organization. How do you gather information about the current state? How do you know where that company is currently at that particular time to identify that, okay, to identify where they are and where they are getting to, right? So part of the things that you can use to gather information, these are the tools. Number one, observation. Observe the organization's operations, systems, and the staff involved in such operations and systems in order to fully understand them. Observation can be virtual. You can be reviewing vulnerability management process virtually on a system. That's observation. Observation can be physical also. So about 2 years ago, I went to audit Rack Center on behalf of one of our clients. You understand? So I went to Rack Center. I went to review their data center security process there, and then the person that went with me, the guy was told to submit his own report. So the guy submitted his own report before me. So when I submitted my own report to the organization, the guy started asking me, how did you see this one? How did you see this one? How did you see this one? I did not see this one. No. Why? Because you have to be observant when you are gathering information for an organization's current state. You see beyond what the eyes will see. I saw some gaps, right? I saw some gaps. One of the example of the gap I saw that is non-technical is they are lenient when it comes to searching ladies. And that is a gap in the system. You understand? They are lenient, and I put that as a recommendation that this may not be a security issue. However, it's a vulnerability. You understand? Because if everybody understands that, oh, they can be lenient with searching ladies, threat actors can exploit that. Do you understand? So observation, you see beyond, you look at things that are being showed. That's how to gather information. Another way of gathering information, questionnaires. Questionnaires. Send questionnaires to a group of people who represent interested parties. For instance, you want to audit HR, Human Resource Department. There's a control that speaks to HR process. Annex 6, people control. You can send them questionnaire, let them fill and send back to you. When we get to questionnaire, we're going to see more about questionnaires, open-ended and closed-ended questionnaires. Do you understand? Interviews also. You conduct interviews. You review process with key individuals at different hierarchical levels within the organization. You meet with the technical team. You meet with the IT department. You meet with the secure development team, the development team, the audit secure development process, change management, release and deployment. You meet with everybody that has touch points on everything that you need to review in respect to the 27001. Another tool to understand where the organization is currently is documentation review. Let them send you their policies and processes. So when you review those policies and processes, it helps you to understand what they are doing, what they are practicing. For instance, in the access control policy, they said they are going to delete off-boarded accounts that have stayed for, let's say, 8 months. Can I ask, let me see, is there anybody that has left in the past 9 months? They say yes. Okay, let me see. You look at the name. Okay, can you log into so and so? You pick critical systems that you want to review that the person has access to before the person left. Okay, let me see evidence of deletion from this step. It is their policy. If their policy says they are not going to delete, they are only going to archive, you review for archiving. So the policy helps you to understand what they are doing. Because an organization used to delete accounts does not mean you will now go to every company. You'll be asking them evidence of deletion. No. Review their policy. This one policy says they will delete after 8 months. This one policy says they are not deleting, they are archiving. Maybe because of some regulatory requirements that says they should not delete some accounts. There can be requirements that we state that organizations should not delete accounts, should only archive them in case they need them for review or events, for correlation of events. Do you understand? So documentation review helps you to understand where the company is at that time. Then scan tools, use technical tools to detect technical vulnerabilities and establish a list of assets which have possible impacts on the network. Perform a code review. You have to be careful when you are doing this. You can review reports that technical tools have carried out and evaluate them. You can review reports from code review, but be careful of being the person that is trying to use those technical tools to get information from that system, except you're a penetration tester and then they give you that project. But if you are just there for implementation, be careful, because if you go and do something and you go and tamper with the system, there's a problem. So review reports when it comes to scan tools and when it comes to analysis like this. So in conducting interviews, use open-ended questions and avoid closed-ended questions. So example of closed-ended questions are, do you have an information security policy? It's a yes or no question. You are not going to get anything from it. Do you conduct vulnerability management? It's a yes or no question. You are not going to get anything from it. In fact, when I audit companies, for instance, I audited some time ago, and I audited a cloud infrastructure that I've never audited before. I will not tell you that I've not audited this thing before. I've used open-ended question. This is how I ask my question. Can you run me through the process of managing blah, blah, blah? You will not know whether I know that system before or not. Once you run me through that process, I'm already looking at the questions I want to ask you. Oh, tell me about your vulnerability management program. That's an open-ended question. They'll start from, okay, we start by identifying this, we do this, and you are typing, you are documenting them. As you are documenting them, you are keeping the questions you want to ask. Oh, we log vulnerabilities. For critical vulnerabilities, our policy states that we have to close them every before the end of 3 days. For okay, no, voila. Now let me review your vulnerability report. In the vulnerability report, you see they have 5 critical vulnerabilities. Okay, and then these critical vulnerabilities, this vulnerability report was done last month. Okay, let me see evidence of closure of these critical vulnerabilities. You will now track it from the dates of assessments to the date of closure based on their policy. You got all of those from open-ended question. So tell me about your awareness program. Let them talk. Don't say, do you do awareness? But there are cases where you can use closed-ended question, but now guide it with open-ended question. For instance, do you do awareness? Yes. Okay, run me through your awareness program. That's fantastic. But you do not stay on yes or no question. Also, ensure all the subjects are covered while managing the time available for the interview. It will not make sense that you are done with a particular interviewee, you now call the person at another time, even though it can happen, but you have to reduce it. Call the person at a later time to ask more questions to ensure that you cover all the subjects. For instance, let's say you're auditing HR. You know that there's a process that speaks to HR in maybe Annex 5, return of assets, even though it is not in Annex 6. All of those things, match them together and review them at once with the HR. Don't say, oh, let me review people control with HR today. The next tomorrow, you call HR again, come and speak to return of assets. Another time, you call HR again, come and speak to events reporting. No. So ensure that you cover all subjects while managing time, energy within your interview. Take notes during interview. Please, this one is very important. Take notes, ensure that you are saving your notes. Don't rely on autosave. Save it if you are saving it in Excel or Word or presentation. Save it and duplicate that document. See, you will have an attack in GRC. Like, you will not have an attack in Jesus' name. But one of the things that can give you IBP is when you carry out an audit and you cannot see the notes. Jesus. See, it will be as if you want to enter ground. Now, imagine auditing a company. You have met with their management, met with their technical guys, met with everybody in the company, and you cannot see the documents. One time, the thing happened like that. I could not see the documents. I wanted to faint. Do you understand? Until I found a way to get the documents. Please take notes and secure that note. Ask additional questions to clarify your response or a situation. If you are not clear, ask more questions. You are the assessor. Ask questions during your interview. So individual and group interviews. So individual interviews usually provide more detailed information and allow thorough ISMS assessment, but there are advantages and disadvantages. You understand? Group interviews are good when you want to reach a consensus. You need information from lots of people, together. But people can be intimidated in individual interview. It is only them. They can be fearful that this one that they are calling only me. Also in group interview, they can still be intimidated because some people, their voice can be loud, even though they are not the one that has the answer. Do you understand? So you need to identify when to carry out individual interviews and group interviews. Both of them are good tools. However, they have advantages and disadvantages, and they need to understand them. And so I've talked about open-ended and closed-ended question. You can see some examples here. So for open-ended question, we have how would you improve the implementation of the ISM? As you can see, how would you improve? These are questions you can even ask top management. Mention the tools that are used to measure the effectiveness. Could you mention and explain the approach that you took when defining the roles and responsibilities? Mention the points which you focused on when conducting training session. Examples of closed-ended question. Are the process of the organization controlled? Have all the concerned interested parties been informed about, so these are closed-ended questions. So when you use closed-ended question, make sure you support them with open-ended question. Then conduct a gap analysis. You already know the tools that you can use: observation, interviews, blah, 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 and the likes. So gap assessment is you determine the current state, and the processes and security controls that are in place within the organization should be identified. And then you look at the targets, you identify the targets set for each security control and process. Then you look at the gap that may exist between the security controls or processes that are currently in place and the requirements of ISO 27001 should be identified. And then you put actions in place to close that gap. put actions in place to close that gap. So these are, I don't want to bore you with this one. So when you get to a certain level, you start looking at maturity models. So don't let me stress with maturity models, but let me just talk a little about it. So this one is, it helps you to identify the maturity. But once you are doing gap assessment for a start, you can be using things like conformity, non-conformity, opportunity for improvement, because this maturity target will confuse you when you are starting up. But you can read it. I'm not saying you cannot know it, but you can start with, the basic ones. So, but this maturity target helps to identify the maturity of the processes. What this is saying is, if let's say you are implementing for a company, you carry out an assessment, you audit their, let's say, clause 7.3 awareness, or let me use annex 6.3, information security awareness, and they have not done anything, no policy, no process, nothing, they are not doing anything, you can say that process is non-existent. But let's say they have a policy but not implemented, you can say it is initial. You have a policy, it's implemented, but everybody's just doing it anyhow, you can say it's managed. You have a policy, it is controlled. You have a process to manage it, you can say it is defined. They are doing it over time, it is defined over time, you can say it is quantitatively managed. And then they are measuring and monitoring that process, they are seeing the effectiveness and improving on it, you can say it's an optimized maturity, a single process. And then you can use that also for your gap assessment, right? As you go on. So you can see 0 says it's non-existent, 1 says it's initial, 2 says managed. So initial means processes are implemented case by case without any method. Non-standard processes, managed says non-standard processes are in place. They are processes, but they are not standard. They are not well documented and communicated. Then maturity 3 says processes are documented and communicated. Maturity 4, which is called quantitatively managed, says processes are monitored and measured. Maturity 5, processes are optimized. Processes are optimized, and then this can be used. And this is a typical example of a gap assessment report. Can we see the typical example of a gap assessment? This system has started again. Can we still hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear
Yes.
you.
This system has started again. Since this system needs a junior brother. I can't see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me continue. Once you cannot see my screen, please let me know. Let me know once you
So we
cannot
can
see
see
my
your
screen.
screen from here.
Okay. As my screen stopped showing.
Yes, sir. It has stopped.
Okay. Please. I don't know why this system is starting this new nonsense that it is doing now. Let me join with my phone and then.
It's still showing here though.
Can any other person confirm if it
I
is still
can
showing?
still see your screen from my end. I can still see it.
Okay.
I can still see the screen
I
here
can
also.
see the screen as well.
We can see.
Okay. Okay. So please, that person that cannot see my screen, go
I
and
can't
confirm.
see the screen. I can't see your screen from here.
Okay, my screen is still showing. I can see my system is back. My system is back.
I can't see your screen, so
Let me stop sharing and share back. Let me stop sharing and share back. So I think the system is tired. Let me join here. Okay, so let me restart my system, please. Sorry, I was muted. I've been speaking. I'm trying to restart my system. So on which slide was I when I stopped presenting? Can anyone remind us?
The slide showed a sample of a gap analysis report.
Okay. Yeah, I'll present that report soon. I'll present it soon. So your gap analysis report can be in different formats, but it must have some key information, right? It must have some key information. So if you can go on your please a minute. So guys, please give me a few minutes. My delivery is here. Please just give me, let's take few minutes break. I'll be back in a few minutes, please. Hello, guys. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies. So apologies. This delivery is going to take a little time. That's just removing everything that they. So, guys, the delivery is going to take time, but we are almost done. Let me just quickly rush it, and then we can move. We can move from this part. So we can read up the rest, right? Please, let's read up the rest, and then if you have questions, I've not been seeing questions on that group. So this is how that gap analysis report looks like. How to carry out a gap analysis. You can see the clause number or the control number, the requirements, like what the standard requires that the company should do, the description of what you identify, the actual situation, the current maturity. You can see this one is on maturity 2, and then the company wants to get to maturity 5 or 4. So this is the gap. This is what you identified in between when you are carrying out your. So to get from maturity 2 to 5, this is what must be done. Can you see that? So, and then we have the person that is responsible to close that gap. And if we scroll up, you will see a lot of examples around that you can check. Then your gap assessment report should contain the introduction, the report objective, the methodology, the baseline, how you carried out the gap assessment, and any other information that is needed to carry out the gap assessment. And then you publish your gap assessment reports. So also, when you are publishing reports like that, ensure that there are what's it called? There are graphical representations. Management work more with graphics. Do you understand? So management, they work more with graphics. So ensure that there are graphical representation. And then even though you are going to back it up with writings like the one we have up above, do you understand? We'll share the materials tonight. Apologies, everybody. We'll share the materials tonight. So, and then you publish your gap assessment reports and you are done with gap analysis. And then you can go into core implementation, because from there you have identified all of the gaps. In fact, this one will solve 80% of your problem in implementation, because you've identified the gaps, you know which one you need to spend time on and which one you need to spend less time on. Right. So Olaide, please confirm you're on the call. Do you have Olaide on the call?
Yes, I'm on this call.
All right. Olaide, can you take questions? Are you free to take questions now? I want to leave the call.
Yes.
Okay. So please, if you have questions, you can ask Olaide, right? And then we can continue also on the group chat. If you have more questions, we can drop questions there. So Olaide, please just take 1 or 2 questions if we have any, because of time. And then we'll continue on the group chat. Everybody, apologies that I need to rush. I left the guys downstairs and I need to be with them to complete the delivery. Good night, everyone, and enjoy your night.
All right, good night, Kenny. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Elijah.
Good evening.
Yeah. Do we have any question so far about gap analysis? I'm not getting your response. Can you please engage?
No questions for me.
Okay. Elsie, Sodiq, Alonge.
No questions so
I
far.
have no questions on my end.
All right. So I guess we have to continue the lecture by weekend, Saturday, 8 p.m. Nigerian time, and also Sunday. the absence of no questions, I wish everyone a good night and a wonderful week ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And please, can you try and send the documents so that
The
at least we the
document.
materials we need. Sorry.
Have you dropped your email address on?
Yes, I have. I can drop it for you again this evening if you want.
Please do that this evening.
Okay.
So we can. It's not something I can drop, but you'll be added to the folder that has all the materials that you need.
So is it a live document or what?
It's a Google Drive document.
Okay. All right. Okay. Just point us to the direction, please.
Yeah, we'll do
right.
that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
We'll see on Saturday evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.